Hey guys, I hope this finds you well. You've done a wonderful job completing the first portion of our course. We call the book portion. And now we're moving into the second part of our course where you will complete your final project. So I wanted to take this time to step through your final project with you. It's pretty complex, although once you get the hang of it, it'll flow pretty smoothly for you. I want to make sure again that you start off here on a great foot. So we're going to walk through this next unit, Unit 7, which is all about your final project and the final project instructions together. Okay, so let's jump in here to the unit, and you'll see here we'll be covering weeks 13 through 17. So the next 5 weeks we'll be working on the final project. And this unit will flow a little differently. You will not have discussion boards during this time. You'll really be focusing on completing your work for your final project. So each week you will have essentially 2 components. You'll have the work that you're delivering for your final project, and then you'll also have a peer review that you'll complete. This is something we haven't done in our course yet, and I'll talk about it here in a moment, and we'll dig in a little deeper. So as we scroll through here, a few things I want to point out initially. What you'll see here at the top are the final project instructions. These will be posted at this top of the unit for you to access at any time. That's also the document we're going to review here together in a moment. You also have a discussion board that is just for your final project. So we still have our Q&A discussion board, but this one is again, specifically related to final projects. Jump in to support one another, and I'll be monitoring this board as well. So that brings us to week 13, which begins here this Saturday. And you'll see you have 2 pieces due for week 13. To identify the topic for your final project. We'll talk about that more in a moment. And then you have your first 2 artifacts due by the end of the week. And you'll notice this is a little different. You probably haven't seen this. We haven't in this class, haven't seen this icon. This is part of the peer review process. And again, I'll dig back into that here a little bit later. So let's jump in here to your final project instructions and take a look. Okay, so you have a table of contents at the top, pretty big document. And again, I want you to have everything you need. So here's just a quick note here before we start. So before you take any actions, please read the requirements of the entire project. I want everyone to be crystal clear as to the requirements of this project before beginning. This doesn't mean questions can't be raised once we get started. However, there'll be no extensions granted for misunderstanding of the requirements. So get clear now. Okay. So as we jump in here, here's the introduction to your final project. And I'm just going to read this and throw in some comments where appropriate. So it says, for your final project, you're going to demonstrate your understanding and knowledge of the project management lifecycle by dissecting a live project. You will begin by selecting a live project that is of particular interest to you. Example projects will be covered later in this document. With the final product in hand, you will recreate many of the outputs and artifacts that have gone into your project and that you've already completed earlier in the semester. You will get to create the ideal plan for how to support your chosen product. You'll also, you will use the lectures, your guidebook, past assignments, and your own experience to complete this project. Working backwards in this manner will require you to demonstrate your understanding of project management in a new way. It will also help prepare you how to plan a project when a client comes to you with a particular product in mind that they want to build. So for example, I want a website just like this one. How long will it take and how much will it cost? I'll provide you with a list of what's to be delivered by the end of the term or the end of the project. You may choose the order in which you complete the work, so long as all the artifacts are turned in at the end of the term. However, there is a specific number of items that you'll turn in each week to ensure you're on track. So the requirement is you must turn in the required number of deliverables each week, and you must turn them all in by the end of the project. We'll talk more about that here in a moment. And so then again, by the end of the term, you will compile your completed plans into one document for submission, and you'll also explore the use of project management software to support your project. So that's the high level of what we're doing here and what your final project looks like. Again, we're going to jump into all the details now, but really the thing to note here is that you're going to be picking some work that's already out there in the world. So it's not fictitious, it's not something in your mind, it's a live product that's already out there. And the requirement is that I need to be able to see it. So a link will need to be provided. We'll again we'll get into more of those details here shortly. But that's the point here, is that it's a real life project that's already out there in the world, up and running. Let's dig into the details a bit more. So here are the specific requirements for your project. So the first piece that you'll have to do this week is to select a project. So let's talk about that for a few moments. So type of project. You're going to select a project that's akin to the type of work that you want to professionally pursue. For example, if you're interested in being a web designer, select an existing site of similar size and complexity to a site that you yourself would like to build in the future. If you're taking this class as a hobby, perhaps, you can select a project that just is interesting for you. And this is a great note. So this is where you're going to get maximum value from this course, by mapping the content directly on top of work that is meaningful for you. So pick something that'll be fun, and something that, again, that you'd like to work on in the future. So here's the criteria. The project needs to be large enough in size that you can apply all of the processes, phases, and outputs that we've explored in this course. While it is true that you can take almost anything in life, as we learned in the first week, and identify the phases of the project management lifecycle within it, you want to select a project that will have enough substance for you to dig into. I will be reviewing each project and evaluating it and whether it will be substantial enough to qualify for use. If your project does not have enough work within it, I'll ask you to select something else. This will burn precious time. Don't waste your time submitting a project that's too big or too small. And so the way it'll work this week is that we can jump back in so you can see the dates here in your unit. Your first task is to identify your project topic, and you'll see here this is due by Tuesday the 14th. Usually we have deliverables or things due on Wednesdays and Fridays. This is different, and the reason is because later in the week you have 2 artifacts that you need to complete by Friday. And so you're going to want that time to be able to complete those 2 pieces. Until the project is approved, I would not advise starting on it, as I may reject it if it's, again, too big or too small, or doesn't meet the requirements of the project. So you really want to get a jump on identifying your project, submitting it in through this link here. The second they start rolling in, I'll start jumping in and approving them as quickly as possible so that you can get jump started. So again, it supports you to make sure you pick a right size project and do that as soon as you can into the starting into this week. Okay, let's jump back here. So here's some examples. So a live website, a professionally produced video from a live website or from YouTube, a print advertising campaign, an animated intro for a movie, or possibly some sort of photography business. Again, the key here is that it has to be live, and again, there has to be a link associated with it so that I can take a look at it. Okay, so let's talk about what you'll be producing for your work for the course or for your final project. So mostly it's deliverables you've already worked on in the course. So you can see here there's project agreement, stakeholder sponsor management plan, communication plan, schedule, business requirements, asset material inventory, a risk plan, quality management plan, a budget, and then also you'll jump in and you'll use some project management software, and then you'll have a deliverable associated with that. But everything that I mentioned before, you've already worked on and have received. You got to do it inside the course together, was able to get feedback on that. So you have everything you need to be successful with creating these artifacts now. Now, we have an extra component to this piece that's going to help support you in that, and that's the peer review portion. And so the way that that'll work is, let's just say for simplicity's sake, this week that we're in now is week 1 out of 5 of your final project. So you'll submit your work for this coming week. Next week, you'll also submit your work, but you'll also have an assignment during the week, which is to go peer review 2 of your classmates' work from week 1. So week 2, you'll jump back to week 1 to provide feedback to your classmates. When we get into week 3, you'll have your deliverables due, and then you'll also jump back and you'll provide feedback to classmates from their work from the previous week. So let me jump back in the unit. I'll explain that a little more, but just kind of put that in now. So you'll want to leverage the feedback you've received from me on your previous assignments, the lectures, the content that's here. Each of these sections, I've tried to just download some more information to you of what I'm looking for and some ideas of how to approach those sections. So you'll want to, again, combine all of those things to support yourself in doing well on the artifacts that you deliver. So how will grading work? So there's really 2 stages here. So this first stage happens over the next 5 weeks. So each week you'll be turning in a few of the artifacts that we just covered up here in this section, all of these different plans that you'll be creating. You'll be turning a few of those in each week. And so here's the note. To help ensure that you're progressing through the project, each week you'll turn in a set number of artifacts. You will be peer reviewing each other's work, each other's artifacts during this time to support one another in successfully completing the work. So that's stage 1. So we'll do that for the first 5 weeks. Stage 2 is when you actually go to submit your work. And this is where the meat of your credit is. And that's when you take the feedback, your peer feedback, anything else you'd like to do, and you compile all those artifacts into one and submit that. So you'll want to read through here and just has some more information about that final submission that you'll make. Here is a point breakdown for you of how not only how your grading will work, but what's due each week. So you can see over the course of our weeks here, you'll have 2 artifacts due, 3 artifacts due, 2, 2, and I'm actually noticing we're missing here week number 5. Which is where your work on your software. So I'll just put a quick little guy in there. And so the points will be redistributed. So it'll be 50 points for your incremental, those stage 1s, while you're getting in your work and your work in progress. And then your final project submission that comes here is worth a lot, 100 points for a total of 150 for your final project. So a lot of opportunity to make up some grade ground here. To do well on this project means, in general, you're very good chance of doing well in the overall course. Okay. Let me just highlight this for myself, so I'll come back here and update that before I post it for you. So to further support you, this next section covers the rubric and really specifically what I'm looking for each of these artifacts. So again, up above, you saw there were some words that I gave you from what I'm looking for and kind of prompts, and here is the specific criteria that I'll be grading against. Okay. So here is your next piece. The very end of this document ends with where to go from here and how to get started. So your next step and your immediate step is to identify your project. So let's just walk through what the requirements of that are. So you want to pick a project, and then you're going to submit it through the assignment link to me, your proposal. And so what you need to include is you'll send me a link to the product that you want to create the plans for. So just a quick note, no actual product is being created, just like before earlier in the semester. So you're creating all of the plans that would be needed to produce that final product. So you're going to send me a link to the product that you'd like to use. You're going to send me a short paragraph as to why you selected this project and how it relates to your area of interest. And you're going to include a note that says the following. Either, I am clear as to the requirements of this project and have no questions, or I have questions and have posted them on the question on the final project discussion board that I showed you earlier. And then you're going to attach to that submission your lessons learned from the closing phase. I want you to have those, I want you to take a look at them and have those close at hand. So as you go into this next portion, you'll be well equipped. And the last little note here, you want to treat this as real world as possible. And I know that sounds a little silly, and it's easy to get stuck and caught in all the mechanics and the process and get a little disconnected from the actual project and actual client. So that's what this topic addresses.